What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? Welcome to part 10.5 of Final Fantasy XVI. If you're wondering what the hell this video is, well, I got a comment in the last video by Rob Stone, a good friend of the channel, and I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about this comment because he made a point to me that I thought was very interesting. I'm gonna read the comment. It's a long thing. I got it pulled up here on my phone, so hopefully my eyes don't suck so much that I can't read it. But he kind of told me what was going on with the branded in this game, because I was looking at it as, you know, my very Western 2023 viewpoint of, wait a minute, why are we treating the people who can use magic without the crystals as slaves and blights on society or whatever? You'd think that they would be, if anything, exalted, and if not exalted, they'd actually be looked at as, you know, good, as a useful person. You know, it's the what's the Homer Simpson thing? You know, it's like money can be exchanged for goods and services, something like that. That's how I view it. I'm like, well, you could. Why not hire them to refill your well, or do this job or that job? I feel like having somebody who could do magic without the crystal would actually be pretty useful. But it was brought to my attention. This is really all an allegory, or it's allegory might not be the proper term. It's all a representation of slavery, which normally I ignore, because I usually, when things are going to throw in this, especially nowadays, it's like, because usually when, I'm trying to think how to phrase this. When media nowadays, tries to put in a representation of slavery or something, it's done so ham-fistedly, it's done in such a way that I just have to go, oh my God, I get it. It was wrong. I agree it was wrong. Holy shit, can we look at maybe something a little more in-depth and a little more interesting? Like it's kind of what Rob gets into here, you know, that there's actually, I'm not going to say it necessarily delves into the psychological view of the people, but it's a little bit more in-depth than just slavery bad. Which again, it's my problem with a lot of movies and whatever nowadays. Like, I see a trailer, I'm like, oh, I see it's this bad, that bad. Wonderful. You have just boiled down a complex evil that the world faced into a 2-word sentence that you just keep repeating over and over, that we understand that part. Can we look at maybe why it was a thing and how we can advance from that and how we can avoid coming into that problem? Again, that's my whole issue with bringing social things into media. You can do it. I just would prefer it if you have something to say about it, instead of just, you know, just saying it's bad. Thanks. Jesus Christ. But no, we can't say the communists are bad. No, we can't say that. Sorry. If you're a communist out there, I just don't think you'd like me very much, because I vehemently despise communists. I've got a problem with Nazis. I got a problem with communists. Alright, so let's see here. So Rob Stone, as he writes, and again, before anybody thinks, oh my gosh, you're putting him on blast. No, I think he made a very good comment, and I want to highlight it, and I want to, you know, like I said, opine a tad on it instead of just typing, because I prefer to talk instead of write. That's just how I am. And always, if you write a comment that I find super interesting on this, you agree or disagree with me on a point or something, always hit me up in the comments. I'm always happy to hear from you guys. Not only does it drive engagement, and that's good for algorithms, but I just like hearing from you guys. You know, because you all are way smarter than me. I'm just an asshole who likes to, you know, say the first thing that pops into his mind and you know, hopefully entertain you guys with this stupidity. So, as Rob writes, with regards to the bearers being treated as slaves despite their powers being useful, yep, it's meant to make you question why they are seen that way. We, and in parentheses, and to the extent Clive is a man made a bearer later in life, and from a country where the palace, if not the general population, treated bearers as people, end parentheses, See the obvious issue with treating bearers as slaves and question why the bearers put up with it, but within the system, it is the way life is. That's a very good point, because I mean, I wasn't even thinking the fact that the people who can use magic, you think, why? Like, really, you're going to try and tamp down, you know what I mean? You're going to try and violently oppress the people who can freely use magic? I'm like, I feel like that's not going to do well. But again, I'm forgetting human psychology. This is, it's the term of boiling the frog. You know, you just slowly turn up the heat, and the frog doesn't know it's dying. It's sort of that situation here. It's become, this is the way it's been for the bearers. And so people, even the people within the system who are being subjugated, don't understand. Or it's not that they don't understand. It's they don't see it as big of a problem, or that there's an even better solution. In my opinion, free market capitalism. It's what caused slavery in the South to almost completely fall apart. And if people are going to ask me, well, what the hell are you talking about, AJ? Well, if I can get a little historical, and from what I'm not the most knowledgeable about this, but as far as I understand it, the problem with the South's economy at the time, so focused on slavery, actually hurt it rather than helping it. I can understand why people would want to go through a system like that, why they would want to. Just want to make sure my PS5 doesn't fall asleep while I'm talking. While I can understand why people would think, well, okay, it's free, free quote unquote labor. You buy the person. It's, they in their way of thinking, it's no different as buying a shovel. Not saying it's right, just saying that was the thinking. You buy them, and that's free labor from then on. Well, the problem is, when you subjugate a person like that and you cause them to work, they're not going to work as hard as somebody who's earning a wage, maybe even a wage based on performance. Those people are going to work harder. Why? Because what they get paid is equal to the work they do. If you're under a situation where you're literally owned by another person, well, fuck it, I'm going to do the least amount of work I can and not get hit. It's a similar thing that you see under communism. I had somebody back when I was in college argue with me. They're like, "Oh, well, it's great. A doctor gets paid, or a janitor gets paid the same as a doctor." And I said, "No, a janitor gets paid the same as a doctor." Or God damn it, I'm getting things flipped around. He said janitor to doctor. I said, no, a doctor gets paid the same as a janitor. And he looks at me saying, well, we're saying the same thing. I'm like, no, we're not. A janitor is not getting paid millions of dollars like a doctor would. The doctor is making what a janitor would make for while he's saving a person's life. He's getting paid the same as the guy cleaning the toilet. And don't get me wrong. You clean toilets, you're a plumber, you're whatever you do. Your job is just as necessary as anything else. But for the amount of schooling, the amount of work, the amount of stress, and everything that goes into being a doctor, well, why would you do that if you're going to get paid the same as anyone else? Well, I'll do something easier and still get the same money. There's no incentive to do something better. It's why a lot of communist regimes have failed. This is not the only reason, but it's, there's also a lot of issues with the way they're run and the government's becoming corrupt and other issues, but let's just look at the system itself. That's always been my opinion on it. But it's a similar issue. You have these large plantations that are dismantling smaller maybe like a family-run farm. They can't compete with a plantation that can produce so much crop and provide it at a lower price at a lower price point because they can produce so much because of slavery. That's just how it went. But the added problem was they weren't making as much as they even could, because again, the people who were working for you aren't putting everything they can into it. They're just trying to slide under the radar and, like I said, not get hit, which is understandable. It's why that economy ends up becoming unbalanced and eventually just completely collapses. as it should. I mean, it's also, I'm speaking purely from like I said, from an economic standpoint. I'm not even touching on the moral issue, because again, then we have even bigger problems when we get into the moral issue. But again, I'm speaking more from an economic standpoint. But it's a similar problem here with these. To me, in the modern day, I sit and look at the bearers. Well, you're just subjugating them. You're oppressing them. They're not going to do as much for you as if you would allow them to freely trade their services. Again, it's money can be used for goods and services. I explain. Wonder. More money gets you many peanuts. That's how my brain immediately worked with it. I was looking at it from the capitalist perspective, but not the perspective of the time, place, and the setting and everything. So I guess it makes sense. And even then, it also makes sense that people would be afraid of the people who could use the magic, because it would cause them to have fear similar to, not exactly like how we had the witch trials in real life, but, thinking that, oh, well, they could be a danger to me and my children. Okay, makes a little bit of sense. It's not right, but it makes sense. Where the hell was I Where the hell did I leave off here? Okay. As with real-world slavery, the bearers are seen as tools, just like the crystals that let normal people use magic, not people. They are normally given this role from birth, with some exceptions, and the vast majority don't know any combat spells. They accept their roles because that is what they grew up with, and few who try to flee are either killed or vanish. To the hideout, where the majority, again, aren't soldiers in a position to help others. So essentially, it's, the few who get out either don't last long, or they, like he said, make it to the hideout, and, they're not combatants. They're essentially farmers, or handymen, or pick a thing. Where the hell? God damn it! This is I hate, because I'm reading this out of the email that YouTube sends me of the comment. It'd be much better if I could read the comment off the YouTube page, but my mic's not set up for that. I apologize that this is horribly read. Their comrades are then punished as well. There are other factors which you'll see over the game, but the long and short of it is just like in Roman history, and I believe American, but you'll know more of that than me. Yeah, you filthy Brit. Sorry, Rob. I love you. I'm just giving you shit, man. The main thing preventing a slave uprising is a lack of coordination, poor conditions, meaning the slaves are undernourished, and work they are doing, meaning their masters can spend their time not doing menial labor, but instead doing other jobs, including forming the military forces required to maintain the status quo, as they know the slaves they rely on could be dangerous for them if let off the leash. We see it that the bearers would be more free to help people with the magic. The inhabitants of the empire see it as they are non-humans, to be raised from birth as tools, and to be feared when not under their master's thumbs. It's a very good point. And yes, I know there were slave revolts throughout. Geez, I'm running through my knowledge of history here, because outside of U.S. history, my knowledge of U.S. history isn't super great, but it's a lot better than world history. But I believe South America, a lot of them had slave revolts that, they showed up. Yeah, they showed up in, again, the whole Spartacus thing in the Roman days with the Colosseum. The U.S. in its time also saw slave revolts and everything. But again, it's like he said, the big problem was they didn't have coordination, military they didn't have military coordination. They didn't have supplies. They were able to perform guerrilla tactics, but eventually were just overpowered by the sheer force of the state, which is a good point. And again, I lost my fucking place. 11 monthly. We inhabitants of the empire. Oh wait, we see it as the bears more. I'm sorry, my eyes are fucking with me here. Okay. The dominants we have seen are seen as different. Kupka, Benedicta, Joshua, Odin, and Bahamut are all either leaders of their countries in the royal family or high-ranking soldiers, but they should be treated like the bears, right? Question mark. Except they don't need a slave uprising to change the status quo. They can wipe out armies on their own with no help, so they are treated as well in their countries and in some cases become the ruling family. The only exception we have seen is Jill with the Iron Kingdom, where the dominants are seen as bearers and therefore evil, and the priests run the country instead. I thought the story with the bearers was unfortunately in keeping with the history of slavery, right down to how frustrating we as the viewer and Clive and Sid see it as a system which is illogical. And like I said, I think I added, like I said, I see it from an economic point. Maybe it's because I'm just an asshole and I have I don't want to say I don't have empathy for people, but when I see things, I look at it from that economic system. It's like, wait, this just doesn't make sense. It's like you said, it's illogical. I'm not the person going, oh, it's so wrong this is happening to this people. It's like, well, this doesn't make sense. There's a much better system to be had here. That's just me. But no, I think it brings up some interesting points that really kind of got me thinking about it in a different way, because I was definitely not thinking of it as a pure allegory for real world slavery, but it fits, and I think it's done rather well because it actually keeps you interested. He does say that, because he says he's about 75% of the way through the game, he believes, that it does take a, the way the bearers are treated, the way the bearers are seen in society does take a more central focus in the narrative. Because right now, and what my biggest fear would be, that it would be seen as more set dressing and just in the background is world building. It's like you're putting so much focus on it, but then you do nothing with it. But apparently it does take a little bit more of a focus later on down the line, which is good, because I'm also curious what the hell the story's going. Because I mean, other than just trying to figure out the whole bear who killed Clive's brother, which in my opinion is pretty obvious it was Clive, but we're seeing whatever the hell the Joshua kid, the guy who either looks like Joshua or is Joshua in the robes that we're chasing right now in the game. So who the fuck knows what's happening there? So yeah, I'm sitting here going, well, what's the story? Like, what's the story? Like, what are we doing really in the game as a whole? But I'm sure we will see that as we continue on. Guys, thank you for listening to this rant, to this me just talking about whatever the hell popped into my head as I read that comment. It's like I said, I found it interesting. I thought it was just something that kind of made me think and kind of sent me off on a tangent of my own of just thinking about something, and I like doing that kind of stuff. So when I like doing that stuff, I like to share it with you guys, because maybe, I don't know, somebody out there will also enjoy it and maybe think something a little differently and tell me what they think. And I like talking to you guys. So, all right, thanks for watching. I'm trying to think what time I'm putting this up. This should come out an hour before the next Final Fantasy 16 video, so stay tuned if you're into the series. If not, I'll see you guys tomorrow with whatever the hell I'm playing. So, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one. Till then, I'm out.